where the veil between this world and the next grows thin, and the things that whisper in the dark are given voice. From the cryptic candlelit studios, deep in the Indiana forests, your host, Matt Wilson, and his spectral producer, Juniper Ravenwood, unearth the forbidden, the forgotten, and the fearsome. So, still your heart, dim the light, and listen closely. For once you tune into the shadow frequency, you may never tune out.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper Ravenwood, and tonight it feels like one of those nights where the air itself seems to be waiting for something to step out of it. I'm seated here at the dead air terminal, and that usually means one thing. Somewhere in the static, some strange old case is already trying to find us before we find it. Matt, Chris, what kind of file are we pulling tonight?
Well, let's go with strange entities tonight. You know, the kind that look almost human right up until the moment your gut tells you they absolutely are not.
That feels like the right kind of bad idea. All right, I've got the terminal set here to strange entities. Let's get this all typed in. All right. Let's see what we get.
Satellite uplink established. Access granted. Searching database.
This is going to be good. I can feel it.
Data scan successful. Processing data. Confirmed. Receiving. Received.
And we've got the file now. Tonight's case is episode 323, The Grinning Man, Indrid Cold, and the Men in Black of 1966. We're heading into late autumn of 1966, West Virginia, the Ohio Valley, a lonely highway near Parkersburg, and a witness who said a chimney-shaped craft blocked his road before a tall, dark-haired stranger stepped out and spoke to him without moving his lips. Before long, that already unnerving encounter would become tangled up with the name Indrid Cold, the image of a fixed grin, Men in Black dread, and the feeling that somebody, or something, did not want witnesses talking. Chris, what do you make of that?
That's the sort of case that gets under your skin, because it starts so simply. One man, one road, one encounter, and then suddenly the whole thing feels like it's connected to a much larger shadow standing just out of frame.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It doesn't begin like a monster story. It begins like something stepping quietly into the ordinary life and making ordinary life feel wrong.
And those are the ones that linger. A giant beast in the woods is scary enough, but a polite stranger with a smile and perfect manners somehow feels worse.
Then let's open the file and get into it. Matt, take it away.
You are tuned to the Shadow Frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. Hosted by Matt Wilson. Produced by Juniper Ravenwood. With Chris Beach. The darkness continues.
Thanks, Juniper, for digging into the file cabinet and pulling out one that feels like it's still warm from somebody else's hands. When people talk about the Grinning Man now, they usually jump straight to the polished image, the smile, the suit, the weird calm, that almost theatrical sense that he knows more than you do and enjoys that you don't. But before the legend hardened into a face everybody thinks they know, there was a season in 1966 when the whole Ohio Valley seemed to be slipping into some other frequency. And if you want to feel how this case starts, you have to back up just a little before West Virginia and picture Elizabeth, New Jersey on October 11th, 1966. Two boys heading home, the turnpike up above them, a high fence, bright streetlights, and behind that fence a figure so out of place it didn't even scan as a person at first. Huge, dark-complexioned, reflective green clothing catching the light, standing in a spot that didn't seem easy to reach, and then turning with a grin that felt less friendly than mechanical, like a mask had suddenly become aware of you, and from that moment on, the season had already started to lean in the wrong direction. Then we moved south and west into rainy West Virginia, November 2nd, 1966, Interstate 77 near Parkersburg. where Woodrow Derenberger is driving home from Marietta after work. Just another salesman on a wet road trying to get back to Mineral Wells before the night gets any longer. And that's what makes this hit so hard. He's not in an abandoned asylum. He's not poking around some cursed ruin. He's on a highway. Then ahead of him, something drops into his path and blocks the road. And later he describes it as shaped like a chimney of a kerosene lamp. Dark, odd, wrong in a way that doesn't fit any ordinary aircraft language. He brakes. A door opens. Out steps a man about 6 feet tall, dark-haired, dark-complected, with clothing that in different tellings comes off shiny, glistening, almost too smooth for the night around him. And when that figure comes toward the truck, Derenberger says the communication isn't spoken the normal way at all. He knows what the stranger is saying, but the lips do not move. That alone is enough to wreck the whole rest of your life, because once you've had somebody talk inside your head from the side of a wet highway, the world is never just the world again, and the road home is no longer empty. I've got an item here in the file, and this is one of those pieces I love because it feels like the case is trying to pin itself down before it got too huge to hold. It's a yellowed wire service newspaper clipping from November 4th, 1966, the kind of old press item that still has that blunt mid-century rhythm to it. It describes Derenberger as a salesman, says the encounter happened around 7:30 the night before on Interstate 77, and centers on the one detail that never stops sounding strange no matter how many times you hear it. The spaceman or visitor or whoever he was conversed without words. And that's the heartbeat of the whole story to me. Not lasers, not explosions, not some big theatrical invasion. A calm man, close enough to see, smiling, courteous, asking simple questions, telling Derenberger not to be frightened and promising they would meet again. That promise is the line that really gets me, because a lot of weird encounters end with disappearance, but this one ends with the sense of an appointment having been made, as if the thing on the highway wasn't a random interruption at all, but the beginning of a relationship nobody asked for, and that is where the dark starts to deepen. Because after Derenberger goes public, this does not stay one private story for very long. He gives that televised interview the next day. People in the region lock into it, and suddenly his case starts living in public where folklore always grows the fastest. Strangers are paying attention. The press is paying attention. People want to hear every word he said, every description, every detail about the road, the craft, the visitor. And before long, the property in Mineral Wells becomes the kind of place people gather around because they think, or maybe hope, that if one thing crossed through there once, maybe it can happen again. That's a huge part of what makes the Grinning Man case feel so alive even now. This wasn't a hidden diary entry found in an attic a century later. This was a named witness in a named place during a very specific strange season, right as the Ohio Valley was beginning to generate one of the richest clusters of paranormal lore in modern American storytelling. It's like the whole region became a charged wire. And once Derenberger touched it, the current started looking for every other path it could to find in the dark. And then the name starts to settle into place, Cold. Later, Indrid Cold. That's when the story begins to slip from unsettling encounter into something even stranger, because a nameless visitor is one thing, but a visitor with a name is another. A name implies identity, memory, return. It implies intention. And the more this case spread, the more it took on that awful polished feeling. Not an animal, not a beast, not some shambling backwoods nightmare, but a figure who looked almost acceptably human while carrying that one fatal difference you could never quite explain. Too composed, too smooth, too aware. A smile that didn't comfort but seemed to study the effect it had on the person looking at it. And as the region around Point Pleasant and Parkersburg slid deeper into reports of lights, monsters, visitors, and fear, the Derenberger encounter stopped feeling like an isolated roadside oddity and started feeling like the first quiet knock from something that had no intention of staying outside for long. If that thing on the highway really was the beginning, then what came after may be the part that turns one encounter into a haunting.
That's exactly the kind of story I hate in the best possible way, because the calmness of it somehow makes it feel worse.
Yeah, there's something deeply wrong about a case where the figure doesn't roar or chase. He just smiles and talks, like he already knows you'll remember him forever.
And in the second half, that's where we go next, because once the story spreads, it starts picking up black cars, black suits, repeated contact, and that old dreadful feeling that somebody may be watching the witnesses back. But first, I'm going to throw it over to Juniper and Chris. Chris has got some pertinent information about the Shadow Frequency podcast, where you can listen and all that good stuff. Juniper's going to fire up the Spectral Cosmic Message Materializer and see what it spits out from a listener tonight. And then Chris is going to have some shadow news, all that, and then the second half coming up. Juniper, over to you.
I was just returning from a business trip to Marietta, Ohio, when I had to stop to adjust a sewing machine in the back of my truck, and then I noticed lights ahead of me. I thought maybe it was the police, but the lights didn't belong to a car. It was an aircraft that looked like a kerosene lamp chimney. Then a man stepped out and approached my truck. He looked perfectly natural and normal as any human being. His face looked like he had a good tan, a deep sun tan. He was not too dark, but it was just like he had been out in the sun a lot and had a good tan. His hair was combed straight back, and it was a dark brown, and he seemed to have a good thick head of hair. His eyebrows, his face, his features were very normal. I don't believe that he looked any different from any other man you would meet on the street. But he wasn't normal. He had a large grin and kept his arms folded with his hands up under his armpits.
That is the kind of case that leaves a chill in the room, because the stranger at the center of it doesn't sound wild at all. He sounds controlled. And I'm guessing some of you listening right now are already asking the same question we are. What's more unsettling, the thing on the road or what came after it? Chris, come on in.
Thanks, June. I'll be honest, this one's got that proper eerie edge to it. A smiling stranger on a dark road is somehow more unsettling than a full-on monster. While you're hanging with us in the static, be sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, because that really does help feed the algorithms. You can also find us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and all the major podcast directories. Head over to shadowfrequencypodcast.com for every episode, the companion blog, merch, show notes, and links to all our platforms. And if you'd like to support the show, you can buy us a coffee there too. You can also reach out through the website by email or voice message, and yours might end up on a future episode. All right, June, back to you.
Thanks, Chris. Time to fire up the Spectral Cosmic Message Materializer, flipping the switches. Let's see what the old haunted contraption drags in from the outer static tonight. Ah, there we go. A damp little envelope just slid out of the ether with that probably should not be opened energy.
From the void.
Let's unfold it carefully and see what our listeners sent in from the dark. This one comes from Washington, from Naven. Says, hey guys, I usually listen on Apple Podcasts while I'm waiting in my truck for the early ferry on gray spring mornings out here in Washington. There's something about the fog over the water and the gulls making all the racket that makes your UFO, time travel, and ancient mystery episodes hit even harder. I've been making my way through older episodes lately, and your show has turned a bunch of ordinary rainy commutes into something a whole lot stranger. Keep up the great work and keep the signal moving through the mist at Naven. Naven, that's a fantastic listening setup. Fairy line, spring fog, water out there disappearing into the gray. Yeah. That absolutely feels like Shadow Frequency territory. And thanks so much for writing in. If you want to send us a note of your own, you can always reach us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. Chris, I know you got a little shadow news for us. Take it away.
Thanks, June. Naven, that may be one of the most atmospheric listening routines we've had in a while. And honestly, it sounds like the perfect place to hear a story like this. Country singer-songwriter Casey Musgraves says she may have had a close encounter of her own while flying from Austin to Nashville on the night of April 9th. She says that over Little Rock, Arkansas, she spotted several strange orb-like objects outside the plane window, moving erratically and sometimes forming a triangle in the night sky. According to Musgraves, they didn't move like any normal aircraft and stayed visible for nearly 45 minutes, almost all the way to Nashville. No official explanation has surfaced so far, though some have suggested they may have been drones. June, I'll send it back to you.
That's the sort of headline that always makes me sit up a little straighter, because every time you think the sky has gotten boring again, somebody reports lights behaving in ways that absolutely do not feel boring. All right, we've got the mailbag sealed back up, the materializer is cooling off, and now it's time to head into the deeper part of tonight's file. Matt, bring us in to the second half.
He asked me to roll down the window on my right-hand side of my truck, and I done what he asked. And this man stood there, and he first asked me what I was called, and I know he meant my name, and I told him my name, and he asked me, he said, "Why are you frightened? Don't be frightened. We wish you no harm. We mean you no harm. We wish you only happiness." And I told him my name, and when I told him my name, he said he was called Cold.
Thanks, Juniper and Naven. That fairy line image is going to stick with me. And Chris, that news item fits tonight's subject almost too neatly, because both stories live in that uncomfortable space where something is witnessed clearly enough to feel personal, but never cleanly enough to stop the questions. And that's where the Grinning Man case gets even stronger after the highway encounter, because it does not stay frozen as one rainy night incident. It starts growing roots. Derenberger says the contact continues. The stranger is no longer just cold, but Indrid Cold. The story widens into follow-up experiences, conversations, and that feeling that the first roadside meeting was only an introduction. Meanwhile, the larger Ohio Valley atmosphere is turning feverish with monster reports, lights in the sky, frightened witnesses, and the rising sense that West Virginia in the late 1966 had become one of those rare places where folklore was not being remembered, it was being manufactured in real time by fear, attention, and something that still refuses to sit still. Now, I'm pulling another item from the file here, and this one is a marked photo copy from Keel's later account, the passage everybody comes back to when the case shifts from alien contact weirdness into full Men in Black unease. This is the black Volkswagen scene. In Keel's telling, curiosity seekers had already gathered around Derenberger's place, watching, waiting, hoping to see something impossible. Then a black Volkswagen pulls up, a tan man in a neat black suit gets out, and he and Woody walk off and talk quietly before the visitor leaves again. No big confrontation, no dramatic threats, just that awful understatement Men in Black stories do so well, where the fear comes from the fact that nobody has to raise their voice. And whether you read that as an emissary, an enforcer, a watcher, or just one more strange player stepping onto the stage, it changes the emotional temperature of the whole case. Up to that point, you can almost hear this as a contact story. After that, it begins to sound like a containment story, like somebody, somewhere, was keeping tabs on how much this witness was seeing and how much he might say if left alone in the dark. And there's a reason that black-suited presence feels so instantly familiar now, even if people don't realize where the feeling comes from. By the time the Grinning Man legend was taking shape, Gray Barker had already helped seed UFO culture with the Men in Black motif years earlier. The dark suits, the black cars, the ominous visits, the intimidation that hangs over a witness after the sighting instead of during it. So once that energy wrapped around Derenberger and then filtered through John Keel's writing, the case becomes bigger than one man claiming one encounter. It becomes part of a whole paranormal grammar. The witness sees something impossible, goes public, and then the next strange knock comes not from the sky, but from a man standing at the edge of the porch. That's why this case endures. Indrid Cold is memorable, sure, but the machinery around him is what really haunts people. The idea that contact is one thing, but observation follows contact. The idea that once you've been noticed, being left alone may no longer be an option. That's the part that makes the legend breathe after midnight. Now, this is the one place in tonight's file where I do have to give you a single caution before we walk any farther into the dark. The image most people carry of the Grinning Man, that huge, fixed, exaggerated grin, is not anchored as cleanly in Derenberger's original public description as later retellings make it sound. In the earlier material, the stranger is described as smiling, courteous, even friendly. The more theatrical, hard-edged Grinning Man image really locks in when Keel fuses the West Virginia encounter with that earlier Elizabeth, New Jersey sighting and then writes the whole thing with his gift for atmosphere. But honestly, for me, that doesn't weaken the case nearly as much as people think. It actually makes it more interesting because what we may be listening to here is not just a mystery, but the exact moment a modern legend assembles itself. Witness testimony, media coverage, regional panic, gifted writers, old men in black motifs, and one unforgettable face all welding together into something stronger than any one source could have made alone. And that kind of folklore machine can be every bit as eerie as the entity at its center. And so, where does that leave us? Maybe Woodrow Derenberger really did meet something on Interstate 77 that should not have been there. A being that looked almost human, spoke without speaking, smiled without comfort, and opened a door into years of high strangeness. Maybe later writers took a smaller event and built it into a larger myth that proved too powerful to stay confined to its original shape. Or maybe the truest answer is the most unsettling one, that during the Ohio Valley Flap, genuine mystery and human myth-making were feeding each other so fast that separating them now is almost impossible. Because that's what makes Indrid Cold endure. He is not just a visitor from a craft. He is a figure standing right at the border where event becomes story and story becomes folklore. And once a thing reaches that border, it can stop being merely witnessed and start being summoned every time somebody tells it again on a rainy night, with a black road ahead and just enough room for something impossible to step out smiling. That's the part I can't shake, not whether the grin was wider in one account than another, but the possibility that somewhere along that highway something intelligent realized how easy it is to enter human memory and never really leave.
And maybe that's why the case still works. It doesn't ask you to picture a beast tearing through the woods. It asks you to picture a polite man who knows your name before you're ready to give it.
Yeah, no, I hate that. That's much worse.
It is, because if monsters can wear calm faces and speak in gentle tones, then the dark doesn't always announce itself when it arrives. Juniper, let's close the file.
That was episode 323, The Grinning Man, Indrid Cold, and the Men in Black of 1966. Tonight we traced a strange line from New Jersey to West Virginia, from one witness on a rainy highway to a legend that grew teeth as it spread. A story of smiling entities, black-suited visitors, and the eerie way folklore can take shape while people are still living inside it. Thanks so much for listening and spending part of your night with us here on The Shadow Frequency. And as always, you can reach us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website. That is shadowfrequencypodcast.com. You'll find all of our episodes, show notes, the blog, merchandise, and a whole lot more. And be sure to follow along on all of the podcast platforms and Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Rumble. And of course, come back and join us next time when we open another strange file from somewhere out beyond the ordinary. You guys want to say goodnight?
Thanks for listening, everybody. And tonight, if you're driving a lonely road and you see something standing where nothing should be standing, maybe keep your eyes forward, because sometimes the things that look the most human are the ones that stay with you the longest.
Have a good night, everybody. And remember, if a stranger smiles at you a little too calmly in the middle of nowhere, you might not be the one observing the case anymore.
Good night from the Dead Air Terminal. Keep your radios low, your porch lights dim, and if something polite taps at the edge of the static, maybe let it pass on by.
This episode was conjured with the Son of Vow. to explore the unexplained while remaining bound to the truths that have been unearthed. All interpretations are speculative and offered only for your enlightenment and your entertainment.